Hello, my name is Jacob Totson, and welcome back to the Wisdom of Odin. Today, I'm in this beautiful valley here in the Highlands of Scotland, just under Ben Nevis, the largest mountain in the whole of the UK. So this video is definitely going to be a little bit more of a rambling discussion, but I hope you enjoy it because I know many of my pagan viewers and my non-pagan viewers ask this question all the time. Question of, what are the gods? So I'm going to actually start this conversation from the perspective of the valley that I'm in right now, because this is where my thoughts started racing. So in a valley like this, we have a massive, beautiful waterfall right behind me here, a massive mountain, still snow-capped here in May, mist all around, beautiful stream, and it's just absolutely wonderful. And so I put myself in the mindset of someone in the ancient past coming here, discovering this valley for the first time. How could they not be brought to tears or feel the presence of this place, to feel so small? Because now in this year of 2023, I feel small. I'm taken aback by the beauty of this place. The earth to me is one of the first deities that the ancient peoples would have created because it's where we live. And when they come to a place like this, they feel that beauty, they feel the presence of something. And so they attach it to an earth goddess, a mountain goddess, something that births us, something that is beyond us, something motherly. The ancient peoples would have accepted that the earth was a being because they lived here, however they saw it or however they called it. You know, with the Norse, they call it Jord, the earth goddess. There's so many different variants of the earth goddess. I mean, Earth Day, Mother Earth, and all these things survive even into modern culture today. But then let's look at the other things that interacted with the ancient peoples. The sun, the moon, two things that every human being interacts with all the way back to the ancient past. The sun gives us crops, gives us warmth, helps us tell time. The moon glows at night, changes, transforms, shifts, just as everything in the world does as well, also helps us tell time. In the ancient days, we didn't know that the sun was a gigantic ball of fire, like multiple thousands of times bigger than our home. We didn't know the moon was just a big rock floating in space. So people built stories and connections with these things. And so that mythology exists still today, and more cultures have more information than even the Norse. We know very little about the connection between people and the Suna, the sun goddess, and Mani, the lunar god. But then we look into science and see that the sun and the moon have equal connections to us. The sun keeps us alive. The moon maintains our oceans. And without the moon, we wouldn't have the rising of the tides. And so you connect this again back to folklore and mythology with Thor draining the cup of mead to create the tides. And all of a sudden it's connected to the moon in some way. Now it's at this point in the conversation you might be thinking, oh, well then none of the gods are really real. They're just aspects of nature, which I think is a very common conception of how the deities exist in our world. But then you throw in the spirit realm, shamanism, the explorations into spirit, and that these beings are a little bit more real and exist in a different plane than us. And that's one of the things that gives us a feeling, a sensation, and when it moves beyond just nature, just beauty, it goes into more complicated things such as Odin and the feeling of ecstasy you get from connecting with him or gaining more wisdom, or through the death and battle and all the glory and all that stuff. And so when you feel those things and connect to Odin, what are you connecting with? And I think that's when we explore even deeper and look into the spirit world and what that is. And this is where we get kind of to my main thesis on what gods are. I believe that the gods are frequencies of the universe. Sounds a little crazy. However, when we connect to a deity through the various performance of rituals, offerings, or just connection or meditation, we are giving ourselves a certain vibration. And so over here we have the Odin vibration. Odin is wisdom, is ecstasy, is chanting of the runes and magic. And normally we're over here. We don't really feel that. But through the performance of rituals, through the chanting of runes, we get ourselves closer and closer to that frequency. And when we reach that frequency, all of a sudden we feel that ecstasy because we've connected with the Odin frequency. Odin is a thing. Odin is a deity and has mythology and stories around it. But ultimately, it's us syncing up with that. Whether or not it's a one-eyed old man that sits in Asgard is not really important to me. What's important to me is feeling the connection I do with what Odin is, with the deity that is Odin. And perhaps Odin does exist in the sense that he's sitting in Asgard. And I'd love to experience that one day and see it in the next life, but we really don't know what happens to us when we die. My argument for what happens when we die is that if we're connecting with that Odin frequency a lot, if you're constantly meditating and performing rituals, or you're a soldier and fighting in wars, you're constantly getting closer and closer to that frequency. And then after a while, you're more naturally attuned to that wavelength. And when you die, your spirit and your soul, is whatever you call it, is able to connect more with that frequency and then go into wherever that frequency exists. I can't give you that answer. I don't know where the frequency exists. I like to think it exists in some form of spirit world, and that we're just reading the legends of people who have connected through that frequency throughout time. So pulling it back to the mountain valley, to end my ramblings here, when you come to a place like this, it has a frequency, it has a vibration that you can connect with if you open your eyes, if you give offerings, if you take a stone, you grow closer and closer to the frequency that is this place. And when you take that stone and perform a ritual with it later, you're able to remember what you felt when you were here. This place is peaceful, this place is vast and beautiful. And when you hold something in your hand and you think about the time that you were here, you're able to return in your spirit and your soul to the place like this. And that can give you peace, that can give you tranquility, and remembering a place like this. And when you perform a ritual, you're able to share that with other people if you do it publicly. And you tell the story of this place, the story of this spirit. Maybe you don't agree with me. This is where I'm at right now in my personal journey. When it comes, and I still question myself all the time, and I think it's really good to check ourselves, to question ourselves and our beliefs, and to share it with others. I don't think I'm 100% right here. This is just how I've explored the religion today, the religion of the world, the giant term that is paganism. I still believe in the Norse cosmology. I still believe in the Norse gods, and I see everything through that Norse lens. However, the way I interact with the world has definitely changed since I first started practicing this faith back in the day. I really do try to return to the ancient way of looking at things. If I removed all knowledge of the universe and I saw this for the first time, what would I call it? What would I say about it when I return to my village and talk about the beauty of this place, the goddess that envelops this place? That to me is how legends were born, how mythologies were created, was people interacting with the different frequencies of our natural world that exist around us at all times, interacting with the sun, the mountains, the moon, and the feeling of ecstasy that comes with Odin or Freyr or Freya, or whoever you worship and venerate. We share those stories with other people. We perform rituals so we can share that feeling with them. And so that's where I'm at right now in my personal journey. Let me know down below. Please be kind, because I know there's going to be plenty of people that don't agree with me here. But ultimately, we should continue to have conversations like this, and that's something I think the pagan world in general needs more of, is conversation, respectful conversation, where we can share ideas, what we find, and what we explore in our lives. Because truly, to me, this is what it's all about, coming to a place like this and be able to connect with it more. Because that's what I wanted when I was younger and living a semi-Christian path with my family, is I would come to beautiful places and I would want to build a deeper connection, and the Christian God did not give that to me. And so that's why I found my way to paganism, to meditation, through trance and the performance of rituals, so I can build deeper connections with places like this and the deities that I call to and kind of connected with throughout the experiences of my life. So that is how I'm going to end this video. Again, please be kind in the comments below. I really opened up here so that you can hear my thoughts on it, and so we can have a conversation. With that, we're officially ending. Okay. I don't know how to end this one.